I do believe that agriculture is going to come closer to the center of economic life than it has for many generations. It's not going to, you know, we may not go back to the 18th century, but I think that it's going to be a much bigger deal and that people will find more employment in it at all levels, from labor to management. And we're going to have to do it different. We're going to have differently. We're going to have to grow our food differently.
How are we going to
industrial agriculture that depends on massive amounts of petroleum-based inputs and capital, borrowed money. It's not going to continue indefinitely. We're going to have to grow more food on a smaller scale. It will require more human attention. You know, I think that we're going to have to make some things in this country again. And we don't know exactly how that's going to work out. They're not going to be like the 1927 factories, you know, getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until you end up with something like Ford's River Rouge plant. I think that a lot of our manufacturing, if we have manufacturing, is going to be based on water power and hydroelectric power and your ability to be around water and water transportation, and that's one of the reasons that I think the inland waterways are so important.
Let's go to the Wall Street protesters, and since they don't have an agenda, they're so young and innocent, design one for them. What should they be asking for? What should the demand be right now? And then we'll get to the immediate future for cities.
And I will get to the protesters in the end.
No, like what? Institutional
in other words, when we look at growing food locally and having kind of more of an artisanal, locally focused economies, I think that is desirable to a great extent. And when you look at things like resource scarcities, that should actually bubble up as, you know, more economically viable. And Jane Jacobs actually invented this economic notion that as cities grow and become more sophisticated, they do something called import replacement, which is instead of bringing everything from the outside, they learn to make it in their community and do it. And I thought she was incorporating somebody else's idea, and I thought, oh, where did that came from? It turns out she made it up. A lot of people find it incredibly appealing. And in fact, if resources become scarce and difficult enough, we will be shoved into doing a lot of that. But what makes it hard is that we don't value resources properly, so that the actual default is the old normal. In other words, we don't have a way of evaluating the cost of, you know, pretending energy is cheap. As I get back to the process, you feel like nobody's paid the price for the Wall Street thing, nobody's paid the price for the foreclosures. So and our economy is going nowhere. So if we kind of don't engage with...
Is our economy going nowhere? There's record profits and record cash.
The broader economy, you know, is going nowhere, and it's certainly going nowhere for average people. But what that creates on the political spectrum is the deep, deep desire for a quick fix. And the quick fix is, let's gin up another bubble somehow. I don't know how this is going to happen, but it's happened before. I mean, the bubble we went through was ginned up to save us from the dot-com bubble and from 9/11, and the economic impact of 9/11.
You know, we went through this boisterous housing bubble, which was really the final blowout of the cheap oil / suburban build-out. We're done with the suburban project. The suburban project is over. We're not going to resume anything. We have to figure out a new program for how we're going to build the human habitat, and we're not going to build more suburbia. That is the reason that I support the new urbanist movement. You know, one of the things that's going on in the wishful thinking department in the USA right now is the idea that we're going to get 100 years worth of shale gas and shale oil, okay? Well, that whole project, by the way, depends on massive amounts of capital being available. You know, I hear a lot of yammer all over the country about solutions. People are always saying, we want solutions. I'll tell you what they want a solution to. They want to run all the stuff we're running by other means. And they want it to be magically delivered in the form of a rescue remedy. And that's not going to happen, okay? So we got to get over that. We got to get over magical thinking, and we got to get over wishful thinking, and get real with the mandates of reality.
These economists are beginning to help us understand and identify how we can actually, you know, to sound Bloombergian, monetize social good, and to begin to recognize how basically our economy does need to focus on actual well-being, not this presumption that economic growth and consumption growth automatically yields more well-being.
I was at the Occupy Wall Street thing, and some internet network news, young people network, asked, they recognized me, they asked me a question. They said, what do you think about Steve Jobs passing away? And I actually had not thought about it a whole lot, and I surprised myself by what I said was that, in fact, the internet and all the devices connected to it have made us hostages to the internet and hostages to our devices. Email has taken me 4 or 5 hours a day to go through, and I don't think I'm the only person who has that problem. The one thing the internet didn't do was give us more hours in a day by clarifying something. The reason I encourage you to be brave and resolute and not be crybabies is because we're not in our comfort zone. We're out of our comfort zone. We don't know what's going to happen. We're in uncharted territory. We want everybody to draw a map for us, and we're acting like crybabies because nobody can do it. Okay? So I'm asking you to accept the fact that you're out of your comfort zone and get real with it and go with it and do what you can to be a brave, thoughtful person within the context of that uncomfortable situation.
The reason it's powerful that economists are actually interested in well-being is, A, if it becomes believable to the business community, then the business community becomes the ally, trying to solve these problems rather than the enemy. The other element of it is that we need to understand economic consequences of decision-making, courses of action that we advocate. I mean, the triple bottom line is seen by most, let's say, business people as a moral idea that's very nice in the abstract, that has cannot be executed meaningfully in the real world. However, if it takes on an economic dimension or leads us to be able to actually value, the natural world appropriately, then suddenly economics becomes a very powerful agent for change. And certainly, when I look at what the kinds of connections people are making between stormwater and bicycling and making streets a richer idea than just something for cars, this is all entrepreneurialism from various people. The new urbanists are very entrepreneurial about what a city can be, and are willing to dig under the kinds of engines that run the way things are, and say, well, let's pull that apart and see if we can do it a better way. So that is extraordinarily powerful, and I wouldn't want anyone to feel that we shouldn't be doing it.